So, good afternoon, all of you. My name is Vikas Manral, and I am Director of Solution Buggy. I welcome you to this webinar. So, the topic of the webinar that we are going to cover is foreign collaborations, technology transfer, joint ventures with international companies. During the last 3-4 months, there have been a lot of volatility in the market, much more than what it was 1 year, 2 year back. However, we also feel that the speed of business, the volatility in the market has increased drastically over the last 10 years as compared to the last 100 years. So whatever has happened in the last 25 years is much more activity than what happened in the last so many centuries. So with this, one can conclude that we cannot depend just on one market, just on one customer, just on one technology, just on one product for a sustainable long-term growth, which always gives us an idea of why companies today are looking for growth. So there could be growth in the present sector where companies invest organically, but at the same time focus on the same product and the same customer. Companies can enter into partnership. Companies can have strategic alliance, which is long term. It could be a buyer seller kind of alliance. It could have a minority stake, and then it could have a joint venture or acquisition of companies. But and this is because they want to grow. They want to acquire new customer. They want to have customized product. They want to have. They want to enter into new geographies and have new competitive arena. Before I set the ball rolling, I would like to formally welcome you on behalf of uh, Government of Karnataka and UNDP. So this webinar series focused on manufacturing sector, and it's a joint UNDP led Udyog Sahayavani help desk for COVID-19 with MSMEs. So we are focusing mainly on MSMEs and helping them. So this is the fourth webinar in this series. And we, Solution Buggy, we are a technology partner of VKF, Vision Karnataka Foundation. And Vision Karnataka Foundation is a knowledge partner for UNDP, which is United Nations Development Program. We are a platform exclusively for MSMEs in India, and we connect small and medium scale enterprises in manufacturing sector with the subject matter experts. We have done around 1,350 projects till now. So coming back to the topic, we are talking about the present scenario, the volatility in the market, and companies trying to expand the horizon both in terms of geographies, technologies, products, and also partnerships. And right now, if we see, if we see the growth of China, and we discussed about the growth of China and why it has happened in the last few webinars also, where they had captured the global market and made really big factories, taken technology into picture and taken advantage of the volumes also, and given the price at which nobody in the world could afford. So that is how they have grown, and I think this is a good way to see growth in long term. See the market, see the supply chain as global and not just local. With this, I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, Mr. NC Agrawal. Mr. Agrawal has 40 plus years of experience in aerospace industry. He retired as a director design and development, which is a board level position, in June 2011 from Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. After serving 38.5 years at various levels, mostly design and development in key positions. Mr. Agrawal was also the founder, CEO, and president of a joint venture, Indo-Russian joint venture known as Multi-Role Transport Aircraft Limited. And also briefly, he has worked as a CEO of Taneja Aerospace and Aviation Limited. So, sir, I would like to welcome you to this seminar. And briefly to start with, I would like to know about the joint venture that you are heading. about key learnings that you had, what were the challenges you faced, and what was the joint venture all about. Sir, you are on mute. If you could unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, sir.
So, good afternoon, everybody. And I have one of my colleagues, erstwhile colleagues, Sunil Singh, uh, who had been in HAL Lucknow long time ago, but I don't know where exactly he is. I believe you are with Mani now, Sunil. Mute, Sunil, you are on mute.
I left Maini 8 years ago. Then I joined Tal Manufacturing Solution, Nagpur. Then I was heading. After that, I was heading Aerostructure Cell India Private Limited, a joint venture between Aecus India and Saab Sweden
In
in
fact, sir,
Belgaum.
Mr. Sunil is also a speaker, so I will formally introduce him at the later
Okay,
stage of
fine.
this discussion.
Just because I saw him after almost
Right.
maybe 15 years, I thought I'll just talk to him. Anyway,
Okay.
I don't want to
Thanks.
waste time for everybody. Uh, because we'll go the way, see, basically, when you talked about the joint ventures specifically,
Right, sir.
but whatever you said, I'll just add on to a few things on this. Now, the volatility, whatever is happening in the market, volatile or otherwise, in India, you can see a lot of message or whatever is there on the scenario. It is not something which is new. We have been talking about indigenization right throughout my career in defense. So the focus now is a lot more on Atmanirbhar Bharat. So there, the government also acted very positive. It has opened up all sectors for foreign FDIs and whatever. And even in defense, these have all been sort of expanded. You can have a large amount of investment coming from foreign, even in defense sector. So I retired from HAL a long time ago, about 11 years ago. Before that, HAL did have a good number of joint ventures, both with Indian private sector as well as foreign companies. So in general, the joint ventures which were sort of HAL entered was primarily for looking after the complementary business, where the other side also was equally interested to expand their market. I'll give you an example. HAL had a joint venture with SNECMA. It had a joint venture with Rolls-Royce. It had a joint venture with a private sector company from US called Edgewood, primarily on electronics and computers. Then the joint venture you talked about, MTAL, it was done with Russians for a particular project. That is the MTA, multi-role transport aircraft. So and then there are a lot of engineering services companies. There was a partnership with British Aerospace. That was the first joint venture which HAL had. It was more on software engineering services, and that started way back somewhere where even beginning of the engineering services in this country, like Infosys and others. Now, as regards experience is concerned, and we take the various takes from the joint ventures. One is it has to be having a very strong business case. You cannot have a joint venture and work out the progress of joint venture unless you have a very strong business case. So in HAL joint venture, there are two types of joint ventures. One which was purely on manufacturing activities, sharing of manufacturing, which was with two of the engine companies, SNECMA and Rolls-Royce. And both of them have been doing well because there's enough business, particularly the share of business given by SNECMA and Rolls-Royce was in a particular zone where there was no other competitor in the world. So it was a sort of a capture market. Whatever SNECMA was getting from their customers, part of the job was being done by HAL SNECMA joint venture. वहीं रख दो बाहर, वहीं रख दो. Sorry, just some interruption. So the other thing is when you start joint ventures on R&D, design and development, or for engineering services, obviously you have to see the competitive market. R&D is a little typical. If you do not have projects, or if you do not get R&D projects and they don't succeed, joint venture also nearly packs off. And same thing is true with engineering services. Engineering services is a very competitive market. So you require those kind of competitive skills to go forward and make your JV successful. So the bottom line is it has to be a very strong business case, and you should be in a position to augment your team accordingly. So that is something which is the major sort of experience which I have from the joint ventures.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for your inputs. So, of course, unless there is a win-win proposition for both the joint venture partners, which means that both gain, there's a opportunity for learning or capture the market. So, unless until there is a business case, it doesn't go forward.
Because
So,
I'll say this learning, I will rather say learning should be not so much of emphasis. Learning is from the Indian counterpart. There is absolutely
right.
no learning with foreign collaborators, but they're already much, much higher than what we are. So
Okay.
learning is only one directional. Learning for them is only
Right.
from the point of view of your labor, cheap labor, the way you work. It's not a
Right, sir.
learning in technology. Let's not have
Right.
any such daydreaming situation that we can teach technology to
Right.
the European countries or some other countries.
Right.
Right?
Right.
We are looking forward to partnerships through MSMEs because that's where most of the competitiveness will come. MSMEs can do the job in much cheaper rates because they don't have too many overheads. They don't have too much
Right.
of what you call as baggage along with them.
Right, sir.
It's a
Right,
small
sir.
site, maybe 40, 50, maybe 100 people, maybe something of that type,
Right,
where
sir.
there is not much of a baggage.
Right.
And they also have simultaneously very clear independence to recruit, to adopt, to bring in technology, to bring in machinery and equipment, provided the finances are available and the joint venture partner is able to hold their hands.
Right,
Right.
sir.
So,
Right. Right.
that's what is the most important.
Right, sir. So the cases that we are discussing right now is where there is a R&D partner who has done research and development, developed that product, and then there's a manufacturing partner. So a typical scenario of a R&D owner or a person who owns that IP and the other person who is ready to manufacture that. So this is the kind of joint venture that we are talking about. But at the same time, I would like to ask you also a further question that when does a company decide that it should develop its own product or go for a foreign collaboration? So on which factors does it depend, or on which factors the company should base the decision on?
Okay, I'll put it this way. It depends entirely on which field are we operating. Okay, suppose you are trying to operate on a cutting edge technology, let's say latest. So if you want to do an ab initio development, R&D, and then go on to manufacturing, the time cycles are so huge in many cases that unless you have a very strong financial backup to support your R&D activities, you may not be in a position to sustain on the long-term basis. So my view on the subject is always that if an MSME wants to do something on any of these fronts, best thing is to get into a license agreement or a collaboration agreement, starting with some production activities, repair or overhaul. Okay, where you have what I always call it whether your basic bread and butter needs are met. Once you have a ongoing business and you can save some money out of it, then you start investing on your R&D. Now, today in the R&D scenario, you will have a lot of financiers to support, but they would like to see your business case. Is the product likely to succeed? What is the market? And when you talk about MSc, since my experience is mostly on defense and aerospace, it could be very limited. But the more or less things are same way applicable to whether it's an automobile sector, whether it's any other sector. So ultimately, to have a self-sustaining joint venture or self-sustaining MSME, you should have a very clear product line which gives you the basic bread and butter, and then you can launch onto R&D activities.
Right, sir.
Now, your question about where exactly you look for R&D and where exactly you look for collaboration, I would say when you are looking for a slightly advanced things, whether it is a mobile phone or whether it is a onboard computer in aircraft, it is better to look for a collaborative support right from the day one. Then you will be able to harness the technology faster and deliver the product faster to the customer. No customer will be prepared to wait for 5 years for your product just because it is indigenous. Okay, so it is better to look for those collaborative projects right from the beginning. And the advantage would be you can have a broad collaborative agreement with your partner. But okay, I will do this job for you at a very competitive price. You give us this line, then you develop your organization, pick up your R&D team, and then you start launching into, first of all, is modifications, updates, and then a new product.
Right, sir. Okay. So, sir, I understood that MSMEs per se, they would be having a cheaper labor cost, and of course, they can manufacture the product at a much lower price than the bigger companies. So, right now, if somebody is looking for foreign collaboration, they should think more on the manufacturing side, because if you see MSMEs in particular and also India in general, we are good in doing manufacturing right now. R&D could be a offshoot later on with this, with local product design, or might be for local markets, which could be a offshoot of the first joint venture is
I'll
what I
interrupt. R&D need not be exclusively for Indian market alone. It can be for global market as well.
right.
So I'll give you an example. For example, if you are developing an electronic warfare suite for defense or aeronautical purposes, so if you sign a collaboration agreement with a partner, maybe it's a very big partner, what they will do is distribute modules to each one of the smaller players,
Right.
which is you can call as a level 1 or a level 2 or a level 3 suppliers. Level 3 suppliers are mostly components, but you can have a level 2 partnership where you can invest in doing that particular module, its design and development as well. Simultaneously, you do the manufacturing. So that's how I look at it. There are particularly in the field of electronics, that kind of a scope is very highly predominant in India, because
Right.
Indian engineers and technologists and everybody are very good on uh, large scale manufacturing in electronic boards and PCBs and the modules, as well as do a lot of software work for them.
Okay.
Same thing is true with some of the mechanical systems. You can manufacture, instead of manufacturing only piece parts, components, which are very, 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 very not, I would say it's not very cost effective. If you can make the end units, for example, a hydraulic pump or an actuator or a valve or something, so the foreign companies will be prepared to give you sort of a case where you can deliver the end units. And later on, you can always sign an agreement with them that you will do the repair overall also of the same units when they come back to you. You can become sort of a center for doing a particular type of business. And I'll give you an example. French companies were looking forward to signing agreements with a lot of MSMEs, and they had a large amount of things when the Rafael deal was being discussed maybe 5 years ago, 8 years ago. They were very keen to sign agreements with smaller scale industries on all these smaller areas.
Okay. So there was an opportunity, despite the contract was multi-billion contract, there were a lot of opportunities for the MSMEs to enter into a joint venture. So,
Multi-billion contract is at the apex level,
right,
okay?
sir.
But they
Right.
were looking for almost, there's a almost 40, 50 industrialists from French came to Bangalore, Bombay, and Delhi,
Right, sir.
and opened up their things for discussion. So it is still not concluded. It's going to
Right,
be an
sir.
ongoing process forever.
Correct, sir.
So as and when they find solutions, after all, see, as a business organization, they are looking for cheaper solutions.
Right, sir.
But same level of quality, same level of the technology, and same level of what we call as deliveries, customer services, and the rest of it.
Right.
These are the later part which I am talking about. These are the things where a lot more focus is required. You have to deliver at a cheaper rate, but not at the cost of quality, not at the cost of customer services, not at the cost of answerability. These are
Right.
important factors.
Right.
So any MSME which is looking forward to coming forward and growing in future must set up these particular things as their target.
Right. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable inputs. With this, we move to our second speaker, Mr. Sunil Singh. But then, before I brief the audience about Mr. Sunil, I would like to request all of you to put your questions in the chat window. And I would also like to remind you that all the participants will get a certificate. So there's a link which has been sent by the the admin in the chat box. You can fill that form and then download the certificate later on. Also, the webinar is being recorded, and the link for the recording will be sent to you by the end of the day. Okay, so with this, we move to our next speaker, Mr. Sunil Kumar Singh. He is having more than 35 years of experience in manufacturing sector. He was for 23 years involved in maintenance, repair, and overhaul of aircraft accessories, and then 4.5 years in manufacturing of aerostructure and accessories at Mining Global Aerospace. And 4.5 years he was head of manufacturing at a Tata Enterprise company known as Tal Manufacturing in Nagpur. Recently, he is retired as a business unit head at Aerostructures Assembly India Private Limited, Belgaum, which is a joint venture of ACUS, which is an Indian company, and Saab Sweden. He has multifaceted experience in managing and improving business and leading teams for meeting business long-term and short-term goals. So, sir, welcome to this webinar. My question to you is, what are the different foreign collaborations? Because, you have been involved in technology, transfer of technology projects, you have been involved in joint ventures. So what are the different foreign collaborations that you have been involved in till now? And what are the key learnings out of it? If you can just brief in 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, actually, I have worked in HAL Lucknow, where we had a collaboration with Dasu Aviation for Mirage 2000 project, and as well as from Rojo Boron Exports for Su-30 projects. So I have experience in dealing with that transfer of technology for these things. Then I was in Tal Manufacturing Solution as a head of manufacturing. There we were manufacturing the floor beam, composite floor beam assemblies for Dreamline project, Boeing 787 programs. So this floor beam initially was developed for in development stage by Hitco USA for this Boeing program, and finally Boeing has taken a call to develop a vendor at Tal against the offset policy, and they had funded the whole project. So I had the opportunity to work with the Boeing to develop the whole process for the floor beam assemblies as to meet all the quality requirement, delivery requirement, and certifications for the aircraft. And earlier this Boeing had planned to have two source for supply, Hitco and Tal. And finally, after seeing the quality and development and the in shortest possible term, we were able to do it. Finally, Tal bagged as a sole supplier for the assembly of the floor beam assembly. So today, anybody is traveling in a Boeing 787 Dreamliner program, they can proudly say that the floor beam on which we are sitting on the seats, it is made in India. After that, I joined Aerostructure Assembly India Private Limited, ACUS, Belgaum. So they had earlier manufacturing A380 programs, that subassembly of wing panel assemblies. Since A380 program almost being closed now, but recently we had started working for plug door assembly, which is a replica of door of the A321 program, where the two doors will be closed permanently, and two rows of seats will be put to have the extra passenger capacity. And also we bagged order for overwing exit door assembly, where that one exit door assembly in 4 hours it has to come. That is the turnaround time. So basic learning from all this handling is that when we are dealing with different collaborators, first thing that culturally we are different. So if you are talking with the Swedish people, they are culturally different than the Russian people, or than the I will say French people. So every time we have to see the cultural aspects of the people, how they behave, how they talk, how they their organizations are there, how they are organized. That is the key learning. Another thing is that whenever we are heading any doing any collaboration, first and foremost thing is the communications and building the trust. That is the two key away is there. Today in aerospace, if you see, a lot of joint ventures are coming and they are running successfully. So there is a lot of opportunity to explore for MSMEs for this joint ventures. I can give example with the ACUS only. They are having 3 joint ventures. One they are having with the Michelin, where they are having the only processing of the all aerospace parts. Another they are having over Dunwal, where they are making the forgings. Similarly, if you go to the Tata, they are also having the joint ventures, the Lockheed Martin and Boeing. So now there is a lot of opportunity where we can go for the joint ventures, where we can have a transfer of technology and also the access of the new market, which as a MSE we may not be able to go to the international market. That is the only takeaway I am having.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your inputs. So I think one very important aspect that most of us do not see while we assess a joint venture is the cultural aspect. Do we fit well as a company, as a country, or as as individuals in that joint venture or not? Because day to day affairs, business case will go on, there would be a business case, but many a times what happens is culturally there is a insensitivity in many people, in many organizations, and they are not able to take the joint venture forward, and that's how it doesn't go. But India itself, if we see, of course there are a lot of joint ventures for technology in aerospace sector, but there have been a lot of successful example of Japanese and Indian joint ventures. We talk about Maruti Suzuki, we talk about Hero Honda, which have been really very very long multiple decades kind of joint ventures, have been very very successful, be it the end product, or even Tata's had a lot of joint ventures with I remember that Tata Timken was a joint venture for manufacturing bearings. So even at component levels we can have joint ventures like this. So of course thank you for highlighting this important aspect, which of course we didn't touch till now, that the cultural sensitivity. So that is very important. And then when a person is part of this joint venture, it always is very difficult to manage the balance between the two joint venture partners, because most of the time it might converge, but sometimes it might also diverge. So it's very, so how difficult was it for you to manage this aspect when there were diverging needs, diverging aims, or diverging benefits for different the two organizations which were part of the joint venture? So how did you deal with it, and what kind of precaution that a company can take even before entering the joint venture, so that we do not enter into that area?
The first thing is that building, when we are going for the joint ventures and all, there will be two things we have to see. Things are we have you dealt previously with that company or that organization, or with that country, or we are going for a new partner? So if we had worked with that company earlier, so it will be easier for us to assess, okay, we can go ahead with them, or we cannot go. What is the difference of opinion, and what are the I'll say critical gaps between the two companies in the thought process, in the organization, in the financial terms, and their objectives. Sometimes mainly what happens, some companies are coming just for a very small objective. Some company are coming for the longer objective, like what you said, the Maruti Suzuki and all. When they came, Suzuki came, they had a long term objectives. They wanted to capture the whole Indian market. But there are some people who are coming here India just against the offset policy and all. So we have to be very, very careful. Are they going to remain for limited period or longer period? So in that aspects, it will be easier for us to understand what will the lifespan of the collaboration. And another thing is that when we are dealing with the peoples, again, I will say that communication, although it is an English language, but the words we use and the words they understand is very, very different. We have been in a basically American style of English, and British style of English, and European style of English is entirely different. If you are dealing with the Russian people, although you are the interpreter, so what you say and what interpreter expects and what he translates, it is always a different. So sometimes it is very, very the person who is in between managing the whole and trying to protect the interest of the both the company. He has to play a very balanced role in that, and he has to understand both interest and the objectives.
Okay.
Then only it happens.
Yeah. Thank you. And I also would like to share my experience, which I had with UAE and dealing with Israel. So UAE people, they focus more on relationships. At the same time, when you go to Israel, which is very close to it, they are very particular about project timelines, project, deliverables. Have we met it or not? So a cultural sensitivity is very important for a joint venture or successful partnership, be it a buyer-seller long-term relationship into a contract, or be it a joint venture or a stake in a company. So thanks for pointing out this. With this, we move to our third speaker, Mr. Prateek Kumar. Mr. Prateek Kumar is from United Nations Development Program. And he's a partnership lead of UNDP's SDG, which is Sustainable Development Goals Coordination Center, Karnataka, that has been established in collaboration with Planning, Program Monitoring, and Statistics Department, Government of Karnataka. Prateek has a diverse professional experience working for multinational private sector companies, international community development organization, and multilaterals. Prateek completed his master's in engineering studies, sustainable development from University of Auckland, New Zealand, and has worked in New Zealand for international charities and community development organization. He has also worked in Infosys as a system engineer with experience in data analysis projects for major oil and gas industries. He has been working in UNDP for the last 4 years and has been part of the projects in inclusive growth, circular economy, which I think is reusability and recyclability of product, and state outreach teams. His current role as a partnership lead with SDGCC team looks to reiterate Government of Karnataka's vision to achieve the SDG goal in an integrated, consultative, and multi-stakeholder approach encompassing sustainable development for all citizens of the state. The center would work as an integrator and facilitator for all stakeholders involved in fulfilling the ambitious vision of SDG 2030. So welcome, Pratik, to this webinar. So my question, first of all, to you is, what is this SDG, Sustainable Development Goals? And, do MSMEs and private sector have a role in implementing sustainable development goals? Is there a space for foreign collaboration and joint ventures in implementing these goals?
Thanks a lot, Vikas. It's a pleasure to be in this discussion of the esteemed panelists. It was great to hear from Mr. Sunil Singh and Naresh Chandra about their experiences. It was really really enlightening. So first and foremost, I would like to point out, how does this discussion of SDGs comes into this topic of foreign investment? What is sustainable development goals? So sustainable development goals is primarily a framework where all countries in 2015 decided that they'll work together for. There are 17 sustainable development goals. One of the key ones which relates to MSMEs and industries, the goal 9, which is industry innovation, where there's a lot of focus from all, not only international governments, but also in India right now, to promote MSMEs, to promote investments in MSMEs, and to promote foreign, not only foreign investment, also domestic investments in MSMEs. So how does an MSME use this SDG framework is because, so I'll give you an example. I was working in Delhi for the circular economy project on plastic waste management. So we had a investor conference with the Chinese government, and there were a lot of Chinese investors who came in. And because, India is known for its recycling market. There are MSMEs in India's recycling market, which are very strong. And India actually recycles more than 60% of its plastic waste because of its MSME market. Unfortunately, our MSMEs are not positioning themselves for the global market. That's been a key challenge of how do we position our MSMEs and industries to get investments from the global market. The SDGs provide, Sustainable Development Goals, provide a framework for the MSMEs to align themselves and also attract foreign investments. So, for example, the way the Chinese market and the Indonesian market, they are the biggest SDG-based investment market in the world right now. This is because they're aligned their industries to their priorities, to their national priorities, and therefore they've leveraged investment not only for the social impact, but also for industry innovation and also expanding their business market. I'll give you an example. UNDP has supported Indonesia right now on green investment for 1.2 billion green bond, which is where I think India is lacking on. As you were saying, there's an open market in which India, China, and Indonesia are actually competing on getting the foreign investments. So our main goal as SDG Coordination Center in Government of Karnataka is first to promote awareness of the Sustainable Development Goals, support the MSMEs, their MSME businesses to align themselves to SDGs, and also create opportunities, because there's a key part of it. It's not just the MSME. The government should be open to facilitate this investment market for the MSMEs through foreign collaborations. And that's where the Sustainable Development Goals Center is playing a role to bring the foreign investments down into the MSMEs and industrial level.
Thank you for your inputs. And then when we talk to more of policymakers and governments, they talk more about FDIs, investments. Correct. And when we talk to technocrats like Mr. Agrawal or Mr. Singh, they talk about technology. So I can see but then it's a mix, I would say. Correct. Of course, when you want technology, there's a market. Of course, there would be investments also involved in in such projects. So, of course, we spoke about area, aerospace and defense, which is really high tech, where technology is generally derived or technology is generally made in the West, and then we try to adapt and manufacture here. But are there other areas where such collaborations are happening right now? Or are there other sectors which are not that high tech, where collaboration or joint ventures are taking place nowadays?
Definitely, especially after the post-COVID scenario, right? The investment market with regard to health and climate change has had a lot of emphasis. So it's time for our, yes, we need technology transfer, it's pivotal, but we also need investments and markets, open markets in the foreign countries. For example, India can take a lead in South Asian markets and also take a lead in African and in the Southeast Asian markets, which we are not leveraging it as of now because we have a capital ka blockage. How do we actually expand on that? Expand on our homegrown technologies, homegrown investment, homegrown industries to actually take into a wider market, especially in the green economy, be it solar energy, be it renewable energy with regard to biomass, biogas. There has been a call to actually rebrand our MSMEs and industries so that they can get investments that lead to more environmental and social outcomes, which is what the global market is asking for. And that is how you can leverage the existing capital available in the global market to expand to newer markets. So we feel after COVID-19, there's an opportunity. There is actually the right opportunity to re-envision our MSMEs and industries. So how do we do that? It can't happen only at the MSME level or we promoting about SDGs. These discussions are pivotal for that. These discussions between the government and the private sector, where private sector identifies the lacunas within the own sector. For example, I'm sure Naresh ji and Suren ji can also let us know what is the gaps, where are the gaps within regard to the government, what role the government can play to facilitate these investments for the MSMEs. So what role can the government play has to come from the private sector, and that's exactly where we are as SDG Coordination Center to facilitate that discussion.
Thank you. We spoke about the recyclable economy. We spoke about recyclable green products. But at the same time, I would like to know from you, what is the incentive for a foreign player to invest in India, other than capturing Indian market? So why should it come to India and form a joint venture with an Indian company, that to an MSME?
See, that's where the Chinese market and Indonesian markets have actually used SDGs to the maximum effect. The foreign investors are right now, yes, looking for returns, but they're also looking for the impact. Impact investing and blended finance has taken a whole new kind of a dimension after COVID-19. And that is where our governments, our financial institutions and our private sector have to play a key role in positioning ourselves for these kind of investments. Because the foreign investors, yes, they want to capture the Indian market, but they also want to promote their technologies for a wider market. They want to promote to expand leveraging resources at a lower cost, which is where Indian market plays a big role. The resources which we provide, it actually comes out at a lower cost, and the opportunities we provide to experiment and to innovate is actually, the risk factor is pretty much low at the Indian market. So that is where, especially at the green economy, in the circular economy, Indian market actually is very important. And that is where we need to position ourselves as an industry and government to let this happen.
Okay, that's great. So again, so your question was quite good and quite relevant also. So I would like to know, sir, from Mr. Agrawal first, that what is it that the government can do, especially in with your experience, if you can tell what the government can do to have more foreign direct investments coming in India, and also to have successful joint ventures of companies here from India. What is it? Of course, both of you have been associated with both private sector and government sector, but then what is it in terms of policy or support or infrastructure that the government should do? So you are on mute. If you could unmute yourself.
Yeah, before I answer that question, I'll just say something about this cultural thing which Sunil talked about, and you had all of us listen to it. I'll give a very beautiful example. One of the persons who I know personally, and I'm talking of somebody who is quotable, is Samtel. You would have heard of Samtel picture tubes. So when they're setting up their original plant, way back maybe 30 years ago, They had actually got a lot of technology from Japanese, and they used to send their team to Japan for training. So the person who owns the company, who was the chairman, he told his team one simple thing, that when you are going to Japan, try to find out how best Japanese feel comfortable with Indians, and made some personal relationship, so that it is not a formal professional relationship alone. Ultimately, his team found out that Japanese are very good family people. So their team started making inroads to their family, and they became on mutual terms. A lot more technological transfer took place at home during lunch and dinner and weekends than officially on, through the formal forums. And this I have found myself. I've dealt with Russians, like Sunil said. You can become, personally very close to them when you share their ethics and everything, and you can really become on one-on-one term, and you can get a lot more technology, a lot more knowledge, a lot more things. And the other thing which I would like to definitely say is, when you are into the situation of teacher and taught, if you are learning, please do start behaving like a student, not try to impose yourself on somebody on an equal basis. Equal basis is we are equal partners, you are doing something. Now, coming on to this government helping the MSMEs, I very strongly believe that a government has done enough. It is for the people at various levels in MSMEs to take advantage of those policies, come forward and look for the specific business cases. There, government has to do nothing. It's only between the person who is investing and the person who is delivering. And one very correct comment which I'll make is, let's take away our casual approach to things. We are very bad at that. We should be very serious about our business. We should also project that we mean serious business, we mean quality, we mean time frames. Unfortunately, in the world market, Indians are known to be poor on time deliveries and quality. These are the two areas where we have to, you know, tie up our laces very, very well. Then only you can get market. Enough number of people will come and invest. Okay, enough number of people will come and invest, provided we are able to deliver. It is for us to deliver, not for the government to. Government will not deliver. It's for us, for the people at the delivery level who has to succeed. You look at the example today. Even for LCA program, there are three major contractors in the country who are delivering the front fuselage, the center fuselage, and the rear fuselage. It has been subcontracted to three major companies. That is Dynamatics, the Alpha Tocol, and the L&Ts. So they are delivering. It's a question of handholding, and then the down the side is the vendor should be keen to not only accept the challenges but to deliver. And deliver has to be on by quality on time. Otherwise, things don't do well. My experience in the past is people take promises, do something, will keep on delaying. Ultimately, the projects get delayed. So nobody buys these things in today's world. It has to be, let's come to basic facts. If you want to buy a TV, you want a TV of the best quality. It should perform. After sales service should be good. All those things are important even for MSMEs. They must look into these things. It is not merely, I'll use a very strong, it's not merely for profiteering. It is not for profit earning. It is no more trading. It is for something like manufacturing and delivery. So you must have that mentality. We are no more into trading. We are into a manufacturing business.
Thanks for your inputs, and yes, it's very encouraging because of course there are areas where government has not approved 100% FDI, and companies would like to come and invest in India to get the market, but at the same time that is not sustainable because rules and market dynamics it changes. So, for example, if we see the engineering services kind of IT sector, how India has grown, it has not grown because FDI was not allowed or because there were certain policies. It was because India was strategically placed. India had so many engineers. We were very good in low cost engineering services work, and also English speaking nation. So if we have everything coming into picture, including competence, external environment, and capabilities, of course, which is most important, then of course the joint ventures or even the sector or even the economy will grow. So the very good and relevant point, I feel. So now I come to Mr. Singh again, Mr. Sunil Singh. Sir, can you let us know from your point of view where a government policy could have been better or could help the joint venture or could have generated a better joint venture proposal to move forward? So is there any way government can help in terms of infrastructure, in terms of investment, in terms of reskilling, skilling, to give a fillip to this technology partnerships and foreign collaborations? Sir, you are on mute. Sir, if you could unmute yourself.
Yeah, now you can hear me. See, government is taking a lot of measures in this regard. Earlier, if you see DPP 2008, where investment was restricted to 26% FDI only. Now that has been removed. Then it became we can go anything. Now that also has been removed in the defense sector itself. You can go for more than 50% FDI also. Another cycles was that offset clause. So anybody was coming for joint venture if they were interested in the offset. But today it is not this thing. So government has removed most of the cycles for going for the FDI investment, and a lot of incentives are being given for the FDI. So now coming to that, what we, as you rightly pointed out, in IT sectors where skills were there and we were able to place ourselves in the global market. Similarly, in manufacturing sectors also we need to develop our skills, where government can put a lot of efforts to bring the skill sets. So that is very much required, where we can compete with the global market in times of quality and delivery, which is the and there is no compromise on the quality and delivery as on date. Or we can think of that as a government sectors, all the MSME, they are looking for the skill sets. So whatever today we are finding, the guys we are coming from the school and colleges, they are not directly employable. They need to be trained by the industries, which is again a cost for the industries, and then employed. And after that, again, and there is between the industries, there is a I will say between the to poach the trained manpower. So if government can help to bring to develop the skill set along what the industry needed, it will be I think that need to be taken in the foremost priority, as they have done for the FDI.
Okay, thanks for your input, sir. So with this, we I think move to question and answer session, and I can see a question in the chat box related to a small aerospace company which works in a very niche sector. So the question that he's asking is, how does the person who owns that company finds an international collaborator for himself? Because the product or the work that he's doing is very niche. So how does he find a foreign collaborator? How does he go forward with the foreign collaborator? Or what could be our approach as per your views? Hello? Yes, sir, I think Mr. Sunil is is not connected. So if you could answer this question, it would be great.
How do we get a collaborator in the area which you are dealing
Which
with?
is very niche. Yeah, very
Sunil has
niche.
come online. Let him answer.
Sir, you are on mute. Sunil sir.
You're on mute.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, due to the power fluctuation, my Wi-Fi has gone, so I have joined through my mobile.
No
So
problem.
what I was telling that for that sectors, they had to. Lot of foreign companies are also coming for the collaborations and all, looking for. So he has to see partnership where he is fitting himself perfect.
Yeah, Sunil, I'll answer it in slightly differently. If it's a niche area, the counter question which you're asked is, has he approached anybody to help him out? Or what is he trying to do? He cannot stay within himself and get an answer. Has he tried to approach people who are in the market for this kind of advices? There are consultants available in the market for doing this job. Has he approached anyone? I'm
So, sir,
talking about
actually, we generally do not go ahead with individual discussion, because what happens is it tends to be very, personal, and then other lose interest. So we can take it offline.
Because what I'm suggesting is, let him approach the right people. He will get the exact advice. Who are the
Correct.
people available? And I'll give you an
Right.
example. When we were trying to do something similar for HAL,
Right.
for complementary business and acquiring a company abroad. Even HAL, we did a preliminary study and then ultimately reached out to a consultant on this job. Okay, we selected some 8-10 people. Out of which 8-10, who to select? We went to an international consultant for doing that job. So unless you approach a right person, you will not be able to find out who is exactly going to help you out, whether it is electronics or mechanical or any such thing. So we will have to really find out, and the people can help. Even we can help out. One of the panelists who are there, they can all help out. But then he has to reach out with his requirements, right? And
Yes,
see, this question from Prateek and yourself was about government doing something. Just now, Sunil has actually given you that hint. Government should do something along with private sector to update things like your power sector. Okay, power, this kind of power fluctuations and power doesn't go off in anywhere other than developing countries. I have not seen that in Europe or Russia or Australia or anywhere. So this is one of the areas where government can do and should do something. The remaining technology transfer, these things should be left over to MSMEs, including investment. So government should actually look into the areas which are of this kind of thing: road networks, infrastructure networks. Okay.
So yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks for your inputs. So as we are paucity of time, I would request all the audience to send their queries. If they want to ask any more questions, they can send to info@solutionbuggy.com or vikas.mandral@solutionbuggy.com. I have put both the email IDs in the chat box. If they want to connect anybody in the panel or any speakers or me or Solution Buggy, they are free to do that. They can directly shoot an email to us in these email IDs. So before we finish, if there is Mr. Nandakishore is there, I would like to invite him to give a vote of thanks before we wrap up the session. Mr. Nandakishore. Okay, so I think Mr. Nandakishore is not there. So on his behalf, I would like to thank VKF, which is Vision Karnataka Foundation, which has been, the key factor in organizing all these webinars and as of now, we have mentored or we have guided almost 200 plus entrepreneurs through these webinars, and this is the fourth one in this series. I would like to thank all the stakeholders, Government of Karnataka, UNDP, for participating in this initiative. I would also like to thank Mr. N.C. Agarwal and Mr. Sunil Kumar Singh and Mr. Prateek Kumar for giving their valuable inputs. And at the same time, I would like to thank all the audience for participation in this seminar. Of course, there are a lot of inputs that we have got from the speakers. There are a lot of areas that for growth for MSMEs. There are a lot of, be it a high-tech area or be it niche area, which is more on making greener products, recyclable products. But then there's much more deeper discussions to happen to get into realities, get into business terms. So of course you can connect with us anytime. So thanks all of you. I wish you a great evening forward. Thank you.